Though the German art school Bauhaus was controversial in its time, the impact this school had on creativity, artistic mindsets and lifestyles, innovation, expression, and all aspects of artistry and craftsmanship is truly astounding. Bauhaus not only helped shed light on the importance of simple and traditional art like painting, but helped to influence the entire ideology of experimentation, self-expression, and inclusion in the face of adversity and restriction. Bauhaus was founded in the German city of Weimar in 1919 by the German architect Walter Gropius, best known for its creative influence on the arts and outside-of-the-box thinking, even when Germany was Nazi-occupied and the government was extremely restrictive and controlling. Bauhaus was truly something new. Gropius was the main founder, but was assisted by architectural directors Hans Meyer and Ludwig Mies van der Rohe in the founding and developing of Bauhaus as a school, along with its unique ideology. Its core objective was a radical concept, to reimagine the material world to reflect the unity of all the arts. The Bauhaus teaching method was a bit more abnormal for the time and place. The traditional pupil-teacher relationship was replaced with the idea of a fellowship of artists and craftsmen working together. This aimed to bring back art into contact with everyday life, helping artists give encouragement and inspiration for their accomplishments and creations, bringing the community closer together, and raise more awareness to the rest of the world that there are positive impressions from art, creativity, and expression that deserve to be seen and appreciated. As we know, Walter Gropius, Hans Meyer, and Mies van der Rohe were the main directors, but were assisted by teachers and students, such as Lionel Finninger, Annie Albers and her husband Joseph Albers, Herbert Bayer, Marcel Breuer, Joost Schmidt, Gunther Stolz, Wassily Kandinsky, Paul Klee, and of course many more. Many students at Bauhaus had even become teachers there as well, and many went on to become extremely successful and famous artists and craftsmen of the 20th century. Architecture, theater, sculpture, carpentry, photography, typography, and of course, painting. Within this, there were vast opportunities open for everyone. Medias such as stone, glass, clay, wood, metal, various textiles, and everything color, theory, experimentation, and really just everything art. Architecture was one of the base pillars that made up Bauhaus, designing, building, and engineering with not only aesthetic aspects but practicality. Minimalism and modernism was rising in popularity and need, especially during this time. There was very little resources, support, and housing. Bauhaus helped countless people achieve their dreams and live a life not only artistically, but to see the world differently. Limitation makes the creative mind inventive. Bauhaus utilized resources to assist the homeless and lower classes by providing housing, protection, and support. Theater being another major pillar, choreography, ballets, plays, music, and costume design were all involved. Sculpture and carpentry using various medias, and painting with different media and forms. One thing about this school that set it apart from others is that it focused on teaching form and technique to those that were hungry for knowledge. Rather than teach surface level on core classes, students were able to find their true passions. Bauhaus did not want to be held back by the societal restrictions of the common idea of art. Bauhaus's want for innovation and inclusion had altered the idea of perceiving and creating art as they knew it. Germany was flooded with controversy circulated around this new and unusual art school that seemed to go against everything they stood for. Bauhaus had an extensive curriculum focused on the idea that art could be something more than just a hobby. To the founders of Bauhaus, art was extremely personal, and everyone deserved to have artistic opportunities. It didn't matter who you were or where you came from, you were accepted into the art and Bauhaus community. No matter your race, gender, religion, or even social class, you were welcomed and encouraged to pursue creativity. In Nazi Germany, art was looked down upon and considered a hobby, not something most people would be able to, or should, pursue, since only higher classes could afford the supplies and lifestyle. Bauhaus wanted to provide a safe space for creativity and expression while simultaneously breaking stigmas through inclusion. As said in the Bauhaus Manifesto, in the words of Walter Gropius himself, "Architects, painters, sculptors, we must go back to the crafts. Well, there is no such professional art. There is no essential difference between the artist and the craftsman. The artist is an exalted craftsman. By divine grace and in rare moments of inspiration beyond his will, art flourishes unconsciously from the work of his hands. But a foundation in craftsmanship is essential for every artist. Therein lies the original source of creative design. So let's build a new guild of craftsmen without the class distinction that builds a wall of arrogance between craftsmen and artists. Let us together desire, conceive, and create the new building of the future, which will combine everything in a single form, architecture, sculpture, and painting, and which will one day rise to the sky in the hands of 1,000,000 craftsmen as a crystalline symbol of a new faith."
So what does this have to do with anything? Why is this school so important in the first place? Well, to answer this question short and sweet, this school broke barriers of debate and diplomacy through radical concepts at the time. Inclusion of everyone, encouragement of self-expression, and the straightforward ideology of Bauhaus being the unity of artists and craftsmen as one big, happy, creative family. But unfortunately, it was a bit more complicated to convince the world, and Nazi Germany, that there should be diplomacy between us as humans with individual, unique interests and occupations. Bauhaus was an art school that was radical in its uniting of art, craft, and technology in the devastating years following World War I, with the main goal in mind to improve people's living conditions and lifestyles through art, architecture, and design. At the current making of this documentary, it has been 103 years since Bauhaus's grand opening in 1919, which was then relocated to Dessau in 1925 and shut down in 1933 in Berlin under Nazi pressure. However, Bauhaus didn't die when it was first shut down. Its ideas and influences were spread throughout the world when the various members of Bauhaus emigrated to the USA, Switzerland, Russia, Israel, and many other countries. Bauhaus's ideology and art forms were introduced to schools all over the world. In 1937, the new Bauhaus was established as an art program in Chicago by Mies van der Rohe, Moholy-Nagy, and more. From there, artistic opportunities were spread to intrigued artists and craftsmen. This school of design only existed for a total of 14 years. Nevertheless, its effects can be still felt today. The Bauhaus movement is nowadays credited with having had the biggest influence of any movement on modern minimalist style. Bauhaus greatly influenced modern graphic design and typography. Look out for posters, geometric art, and even clothing that relies on stark geometrical shapes, simplicity, elegance of design, and primary colors. This was revolutionary at the time, but today is just seen as good design. Bauhaus helped the world of art and design step away from the ornate designated limitations of the early 20th century, with its emphasis on form follows function. The greatest responsibility of the planner and architect, I believe, is the protection and development of our habitat.